Hi everybody and welcome back. This is a wonderful kit made by Nunu Platz about the BMW, I don't call it BMW, except BMW 320e E46 series, and it's the model dedicated to the European Tourist Car Championship after British Tourist Car Championship, driven by Andrew Priot. I bought this model because in my history, in my personal history, I had the meeting with one of my favorite driver ever that now is not in so good conditions. It's Alex Zanardi. Zanardi is quite famous because he was a very, very good pilot in mostly in the American series. He was a little bit unlucky in Formula One, but then he had a great career. He took probably the most unwinning Williams of the time. It was I think after the times of Jacques Villeneuve, so they switched from the Rothmans livery to the Westfield livery. It was the red and yellow car, and he was kind of unlucky in that season, so he decided to quit the Formula One circus and race in America with the I think it was still a kart championship, not the ERL, or the opposite. Anyway, it was racing with the Target Chip Ganassi Reynard, which I have the model too. It was made by Revel Monogram back in time in 124 scale with the proper decals of Alex Zanardi. It's typical because Alex Zanardi used to have a pineapple over the helmet, so if you take the helmet that I also have in 124, you can make the Zanardi helmet with the typical lucky pineapple that he used to have in the back of the helmet. And I wanted to buy this kit because I in my past, I was a owner of a modeling shop in Milan, and several persons still remember of me, mostly Italian, of course, because it have been I don't dare to say the best, but probably one of the best shop we ever had in Italy about static modeling. And in 2006 we had a switching with my colleagues, which they are still my big friends. One is my neighbor where I live, so we are still friends. But we changed the location of the shop, and they took a brand new shop, and they needed the money to make a refurbishment of the shop. At the time, I cannot open an OnlyFans. I don't know if somebody want to see an OnlyFans of me with my feet squeezing a ice cream somewhere. I am not the type, for that shit. But I needed the job. Meanwhile, I was fixing my stuff with my shop. I needed a job that pay me the bills for the refurbishment of the shop, and to refurbish stuff can be a little bit pricey. I wanted to do a very nice shop, which I did, and I opened it in the fall of 2006 in the season. But for a couple of months I have been the truck driver for the Jazz Motorsport company, making the world, not the European, the world touring car championship with the Honda Accord. It was the Italian branch preparing the Honda Accord for that championship, and the preparation that I followed during those weeks that I made with them was extremely interesting, because you see that basically all the part coming from an ordinary street car like this type of BMW was, they became completely different because the car was completely stripped apart. All the smallest detail, depending from the rules and the regulation of the World Touring Car or the European or the British or the local, also via the Italian championship and so on. But they allow you to make several modifications on the original body. What I noted was that, of course, every time that you go touching a car, this model made by BMW was a sedan model, was anyway an everyday car, despite very beautiful, because the E46 was one, in my opinion, one of the nicest line they ever made. It was an evolution of the E36, because the chassis was basically the same, the suspension was basically the same of the great E36 of the 90s, and this was the following model, was the following series. So they allowed you to change a lot of part to keeping down the weight of this model. I remember that the original car was weighing something like 1,400 kilos, 1,500 kilos, much lighter than today's car, but still quite heavy to be a racer, you know. I remember that the limit was around 1000 kilos to have the car racing, so you was allowed to change all the bumper and all the body parts, all the minor body parts, not the main doors, not the roof, for example, with carbon fiber panels and so on. So the car was completely stripped apart. I remember that we used it to work over Accord Euro Air, coming from the British market, so they were all our car with featuring the right-hand drive, not the left-hand drive, because the Accord Euro Air was officially never imported to Italy, so it was a little bit different. To make it short, basically, I love this model because I met Alex Zanardi driving this car, and he made for me his special autograph and his dedica to me in a kind of funny situation, because I met the guy in Monza, in the paddock of Monza, and I wanted absolutely to have his signature. You say, stop guys, you can fire me, I have to meet Alex, he's my hero, so I want to know this guy. And it was extremely funny. I remember that he have the same eyes, blue eyes, like Carl Fogarty, you know, King Carl from the Superbike Ducati. So it was the same foolish people that have the expiry date written in the eyes. If you look closely, there is the expiry date. This stuff will expire in, he expired what now, 3 years ago in 2021, when he had the final crash that basically ended our Alex Zanardi. He's not dead, but I think he's still not doing so well. They don't talk so much about him right now. It means that he's, I suspect, basically in the same condition of Michael Schumacher, and this is extremely sad for me to think about that, because when I met the guy, it was extremely funny when he looked at me and say, Paolo, what are you doing? I say, you know, man, I am the guy from the models, from the cars. Yeah, what, I know you, I know your shop. It was one of my clients, because he used to buy some few stuff from my shop, you know. Basically he was searching his own cars, you know, and he always had the problem that modeling company didn't care so much about this Italian pilot. They, like the monogram Revel did for the Target Reynard. If you look at the box, there is of course Brian, the other pilot that was not Brian Herta, was the other driver, you know, was an American driver, and of course they wanted to have the American pilot on the box art. But inside you anyway find little the decals dedicated to Alex, you know. And it was fun because I wanted his autograph, and they say, oh, don't write it that I am the third pilot of Jazz. The truck driver is the third pilot. Simply write that I am the modeler, a Paolo il modellista in Italiano. And he did, you know. But when he took his personal business car, the personal business car was featuring this BMW E46, was from the previous year, because this was the 2004 winter season, and that he had on this postcard was the 2005 car, while in 2006, when I met him, he was already racing the E90, that was the following version, you know, completely different car, you know. Always performing. We have to admit that when Alex Zanardi was racing, he constantly had nearly a prototype in his hand. It was basically not the same preparation that they had. It was completely made by BMW directly, especially for him, because they understood that the guy was a kind of giant commercial for handicapped people, for people that have problems, you know, to keep on. And so it was BMW at first involved in the preparation of Alex Zanardi car. It means that the car was a blast, was much better than anything else on the starting grid. So when the Nunu Platz announced this type of model, I remember that they announced it before the red and white car, that I think it was a 380 model, 318 model, from a previous season that was slightly different in the enlargement over the body panels here. The front is different because of the first version. This is the restyling edition with the different bonnet, different front end, different light, some minor details, despite the structure of the car remains that. And in the beginning I was thinking to modify that 318. Then they announced that they will properly do this 320e from 2004. That was basically the same identical car. I will place this autograph that I have on about Alex Zanardi in the presentation of this video, so you can see that in the beginning how does it look, you know. But I absolutely wanted to do his car. So inside, then briefly I will tell you about the model, you know. But I wanted to buy immediately the decal made by SK Decals. They have extremely excellent quality decal, exactly featuring Alex Zanardi car. It was exactly the car that I had on my autograph in 2005, you know. BMW Italy Spain. I absolutely have to have it. It was very nice, thanks you also to Spot Model. They didn't give me anything at all. I buy this stuff, of course, but it was nice because this was the anniversary of their 20 years, so they had also a little sticker. I think it's a bumper in 1/12 scale or something like that, or 1/18, you know, of a 911 probably, and also a smaller one, I think, blue. I don't know, not 124 probably. And the decal was probably the last one they had in stock, so I wanted to buy them at once. Neither so expensive, honestly, like a decal, but it is very, very, very good quality. So when you can work with SK decal, go for it, because it's anyway a step further in the quality of decal. I was planning to make it by my own because I didn't know that they made this type of decal. I discovered when they were nearly sold out, so I was lucky to find still one. And it's sad because in a way they cover a wonderful decal, anyway made for Andy Priaulx. Andy Priaulx is an extremely skilled British driver, so it is sad that I will not finish this in this type of livery. They had the British flag, you know that I like flag cars, so this should be lovely to finish also in the original livery. The model itself is extremely well done. The main body part is molded in one piece. You don't have the possibility to make an open bonnet. Now my radio started behind you. And you don't have the possibility to make an open bonnet, but I will never go for it because I like to see the shape of this 320. And the wheels are absolutely well done and well molded inside, you know. Very, very thin. The rims also is the same for all the version, already chromed, but very, very well detailed with a fine net, probably from the radiator and from the interior part of the kidneys, the car having in front of the bonnet, you know. The interiors is basical, but you have all the parts that are important for the vehicle. So you don't have the engine, but you have a separate hub for the inside, you see. And all the panels inside, plus I have to make it slightly modified because this car still have the central gear shifter of the others car making the Touring Championship. Instead, Alex Zanardi had the pedal on the steering wheel. You know, you cannot have the clutch pedal, so it was slightly different. It was an easy modification. It will be an easy modification to do. I don't know if the seat is exactly the same one used by Alex, but probably will be, because it was already the version with the protection for the ears, you know, with the big ears on the side. Very, very well molded. The model is basically excellent, you know, it's exactly what you can expect from a great company making this type of products, you know. So very interesting that they placed a separate bag, like many do today, for transparent parts and so on. They are extremely clean, extremely well done and molded with the proper details. Also the rear lights are perfectly done. Separate with the part in chrome in the inside, so it's very, very easy to paint and to make a proper detail for it. So there is all the numbers to make a stunning model. Usually with nunu kits you just have to check the general appeal of the model and the setup when you go building up. So it's just my tip, just to make a dry fit test before you close the upper part to the lowest part of the model, to check if the setup, you place it over a little basement and look if the setup is really correct. Usually those cars had nearly no tolerance in the suspension. They were extremely, extremely low, so they cannot be with the same look of an ordinary street vehicle. They have to be extremely, extremely low. The final sprues are about the front bumper and the rear bumper. Extremely well detailed also here. There is some line that must be retaken with the scriber, you know, because probably there was a little thinner mold here. Nothing impossible to correct. And excellent, in my opinion. This features all the excellent details that you are expecting. You know, the suspension are quite simple, but it's absolutely okay for this. And correctly, thanks God, they provide the desk with the left hand drive and not with the right hand drive, despite the car was racing in the UK. So it's neither the necessity to modify and convert it, so it's absolutely well done. All the lower part of the suspension are exceptionally molded, very, very nice and fine details. It's a part that you usually never see, but if you like just to paint and make a little dry brush, this part come to life immediately, despite I think all the lower part of the car was probably also in white. We will see when I will mount the model. Last but not least, the little rear wing. This might be a little thinner detailed, you know. They had very, very small wings on the tail, creating a little deportance. The car was basically an extreme evolution of what you can do with the ordinary street car, with an ordinary daily car, you know. And that's it. My tip is constantly to go for it, because they do exceptional models. So all the stuff that arrive from Nunu Platz, when they arrive, they used to announce a lot of new models, like they did recently with the Porsche Pink Pig. They announced it in 2018, and the The car arrived after 6 years of waiting, so at the end of 2024. But go for it, because they anyway are incredibly well done and incredibly well molded kits. Go for it, and my one will be dedicated to, I dare to say, my friend, but the guy that I met back in time. He was a champion, and I really want to do some models of his racing career. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.